and welcome to the 20th episode of the Fiber of My Being podcast. A podcast about knitting and crochet, spinning, whatever I feel like doing that day. My name's Megan, and I'm the host of this podcast. You can find me on Ravelry and on Instagram as Fiber of My Being. Check the description below for the specific formatting of both of those, but yeah, please check me out on both of those platforms. And we also have a Fiber of My Being podcast group on Ravelry, so go check that out as well. And my cats are distracting me a little bit right now because the kitten is sitting chattering on the windowsill at birds. She doesn't make a lot of noise, but she chatters at birds, and it's adorable, and I need to get it on film at some point. But yeah, so I'm going to focus now on the podcast. So I've been busy the past few weeks, so I'm sorry that it took so long for me to upload the last episode. It was filmed way in advance, and then it just took me like 2 weeks to actually get it uploaded, so sorry about that. And yeah, so there's been a bit of a break between then, but yeah, I've been really busy with work and such, so I hadn't been able to get much knitting done also, so I felt like I didn't really have any content to share for the podcast, but now I've gotten lots of things done, so I thought I would pop back in and check in with you guys. And one exciting thing that happened this week is that I went to the Spinners Guild again last night. It's really exciting for me to be able to participate in fiber-related meetups and things, because I was moving around for a while, and so I wasn't able to really connect with other fiber arts nerds like me. So I'm really glad that we're in a place that has a nice set of guilds that I can join, and that I can go and just chat and share a love of fiber with all of the wonderful people there. So Spinners Guild was really awesome last night, and I'm hoping to go to the Knitters Guild tomorrow too, which this will probably be uploaded after the fact anyway, so yeah. But I'm sorry if I'm a little sniffly, because spring has sprung, and so have my allergies, so that's fun. I feel like I'm just in a really random, jumpy mood today because it's so nice outside, and the cats are enjoying it, and I'm enjoying it, and so I'm just kind of not making sense. I'm really sorry, but I hope that you can understand and follow along anyway. I'm just so excited about spring, and yeah, I will stop babbling and start talking about finished objects, and to do that, I must first go take a break and find my helper to show off my first finished object. So I will be back in a minute. Ta-da! Esther's a little bit grumpy right now, but I knit her into an Esther Bunny. I know, that pun was a little bad even for me, wasn't it, kitten? So, I'm just going to briefly show you this hat, and then I will take it off of her and release her and talk about it a little more. But, yeah. She's more angry with me for waking her up from a nap than she is about putting this hat on. But this hat is from the book Cats and Hats by Sara Thomas. It's a wonderful book. I will be knitting more from it. And it's the bunny hat. which I knit out of just some leftover DK yarn. It's got nice floppy ears that fit nicely over kitty ears. And it's really well designed to fit a cat's head. So I'm glad about that. And I'm going to take it off of her now and release her. Because, yeah, she's a grump. Thank you for modeling the hat, Esther. It was much appreciated. So yes, no cats were harmed in the making of this podcast. Just annoyed was all. But yeah, so I knit a little Easter Bunny hat. Although I think she looks more like a gremlin or like Yoda, honestly. But she is an Esther Bunny because her name is Esther and she wore a bunny hat. So with that, I think I'll just move on and just ignore how ridiculously nerdy I am for knitting a bunny hat for my cat. I really am a crazy cat lady, and the knitting just doesn't help. But that's okay. Alright, so now for something worn by a different kind of model. I finally completely finished my water bottle cozy from my hot water bottle cozy from the book The Very Easy Guide to Fair Isle Knitting. And the book was by Lynne Waterson. So I knit this out of Paton's worsted wool in the Mercury colorway, which is kind of like an onyxy black, and then just their basic natural color. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. It definitely got me more interested in Fair Isle, and I love the pom-poms and the I-cord that I knitted for this. Yeah, I love it. It's so nice and cozy. So what I finished, I had this knit already if you've watched previous podcasts, but what I managed to finish was sewing on the 5 little buttons at the bottom. That's all that I needed to finish this, and yeah, it took me like a month to sew 5 buttons on. Guys, it's ridiculous. Sewing is rough sometimes. But I consoled myself with the fact that I could cozy up to a nice hot water bottle once I was done. Nice one that's covered in lovely soft wool and pretty knitting, and I'm pretty happy with it. Now, I haven't blocked this yet. I probably will still, but just to kind of work out the tension issues a little. Although my stranded tension is getting better, so that's nice. But yeah, so happy that I finally finished the sewing of the buttons. Yeah. That is also an FO. Next, I'm going to skip around on my show notes a little. I've got them here, but I'm going to go in a different order because I can, because I am already wearing one of my finished objects. That's right, this lovely, soft, squishy thing, which, funnily enough, is called the Squishy Soft Cowl. It's a pattern by Jill June, and I knit this because I was looking for a really simple, bulky weight cowl pattern that I could use to knit my ball of KnitPicks Wonderfluff, which is aptly named and wonderful. So, Wonderfluff is basically wool and alpaca that are blown into like a nylon mesh tube. So the yarn isn't really even spun at all. It's just kind of contained. The wool is just contained inside a netted tube. And so it makes it really lofty and fluffy and soft. And I think that this was just the perfect pattern to make out of this. Because I didn't want to go for something with a whole lot of texture, because the fluffiness of the yarn won't really show off texture very well. So I will take this off so I can show you the pattern. This is like the easiest cowl ever. Basically, you cast on, I think for this version this is a free pattern. For this version it was 87 stitches. There's also guides on how to make it in different weights of yarn. But this was 87 stitches, and then you just knit 4, purl 4 in a spiral until you decide that you're done with your cowl, and then you just bind off. There's no beginning and end of round, nothing like that. You just spiral around and around and around, knit 4, purl 4, and because of the number of stitches you cast on, the pattern spirals around there. But yeah, easiest cowl ever. And I'm actually going to take it off again because I shuffled things around so I could show you my next finished object, which I have not blocked yet, so it still looks kind of awful, to be honest. But I finally finished my Rodekool scarf. It's a pattern by the Queen of Brioche, Nancy Marchant, and I finally finished it. Now I love the way that this end looks here. This was the cast on end. And then this end just looks crappy, and I definitely need to block it. So I think that'll help kind of open it up more and make it look more flowery. And Rodekool actually means cabbage, I believe. Maybe red cabbage in Dutch. Yeah, so that's where the name of this scarf comes from. And it is obviously a lovely 2-color brioche reversible scarf, although I prefer the red side to the white side. Just personal preference, but if I ever feel like using the white side, it's there, just right on the other side. I knit this out of KnitPicks Woolike in like a burgundy color, and then I believe this color is called beige. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'm happy to finally have it finished because this has been on my needles for way too long. And yeah, I'm hoping that I can block it this week so that it looks a little nicer and I can start wearing it. Feels like the perfect springy scarf. So I will take it off now and show it to you a little closer up. So here is that lovely kind of ferny brioche pattern. You can see on the other side as well. And I finally finished the middle section. That was what took me so long, was just the slog of knitting the same 4-row repeat the whole way through this middle section. Once I got to the second keyhole, it went pretty quickly. But yeah, brioche. Brioche is just wonderful and squishy, and I just love that. That's just great. So I'm really happy to have it done. Hopefully I can block it before next spring. Because let's face it, the way I've been going with blocking, it probably will take me that long to get this done. But I have other things that need to be blocked that can help pressure me into blocking, such as my finished Multnomah shawl. Is this facing the right way? I think it is. I still haven't sewn in the ends, and obviously I haven't blocked it, but I'll let you just admire the beauty of that gradual color fade of this yarn. I just love this yarn. This is Cascade Heritage Wave. My family got me a couple skeins of this for my birthday, so I chose to use one of them for this shawl, which is very tiny right now, but I really think it will block out more because it is a wool yarn. Should block out nicely. And down at the bottom here, it's curling and looking awful, but there's this lovely feather and fan pattern that makes this feel kind of like a Shetland hap shawl. And then just at the very end, the yarn turned to green again. And I was actually hoping I would get a little more color variation at the end, because I was hoping this would go a bit longer, but the pattern called for it to end when it did, and I was just having too much trouble calculating how to continue it, if I wanted to continue it, so I just found off and figured it would work. It should block out nicely. And this pattern, as I may have said, is the Multnomah shawl by Kate Ray. So hopefully this and the Rodekool together will help me get my button gear and actually block things. Now I'm going to put back on the cowl because so soft, so squishy. Next up is, my finished spinning project of the week. I finally finished spinning, well, I say finally, I only started this recently, but I finished spinning my Shirsty Cat roving that I got at For the Love of Fiber last month. So I had spun this beautiful skein before. I love the color variation in that. Looks like you kind of just took the yarn and colored it in with a colored pencil and, missed some spots in there. It's a little bit streaky, but I love it. And then I finished another skein, and another skein, and another little skein, which is still on my homemade nitty knotty because I haven't completely tied it off because I'm lazy sometimes. But yeah, so 100 grams of beautiful merino Tencel roving, 80% merino, 20% Tencel, which is partly what gives that lovely streakiness to it, because I think the Tencel doesn't take up dye quite like the merino does, or else she just mixed in undyed Tencel. But it adds like a lovely silky luster to it as well, that I'm really happy with. And I'm gonna pause for a second and be back. Alright, now to talk about works in progress, where I have some exciting successes to talk about. Not finished successes, obviously, otherwise they would be finished objects. But I am still pretty excited about these strides I've made. For example, I am nearly positively finished with my print Oh the Wave stole. I can't stretch it out fully. It kind of fills up the whole screen here. So, but as you may notice, it is in a straight line now. No more scrunchy caterpillar. So, I've knit 3 of the 4 sides of this. I just have to finish knitting one long side, and then I'm done. And I am positive that I have enough yarn to finish it this time, because I've been weighing the yarn as I go, and when I was halfway done, I had over half of the yarn weight left from what I started with when I was knitting this border. So it's just a matter of time for how long it will take me to finish this last edge. I cannot wait to finish this. But it's also getting pretty tedious knitting the border over and over again. So I also haven't finished it, even though I probably could have already. This beautiful pattern is the Print O' the Wave Stole by Uni Zhang. And this is knit out of Shirsty Cat lovely lace base in the springtime colorway. So this is my springtime success because I am going to have enough springtime left to finish the border. So I will show you a bit of the border this time. It's this lovely wavy pattern that is knit on as you go, and I love how the join looks here. Looks like it's grafted together. And I just really love it, and I can't wait until this is off my needles and blocked into its lovely large laciness, because I'm sure it's going to grow quite a bit still. And I cannot wait to wear it, and it's so springy and beautiful, and I just want to wear it now. So I'm really, really excited that I am able to finish it now. I bumped down the gauge. I used smaller needles for my border so that I could make the whole border out of this yarn. And I'm so happy that it's worked out. So hopefully next week this will be a finished and blocked object hanging around my neck. That would be fantastic. Next up, I didn't make a whole lot of progress on this, but I passed a significant hurdle. This is my second of the Latvian mittens from the book Knitting Hats and Mittens Around the World by, the pattern in the book is by Lisbeth Ubitus. It's a really hard name to figure out how to pronounce. I'm sorry. But so I haven't gotten much done on this mitten yet, compared to the finished other mitten. But my success was I managed to finish last night at the Spinners Guild the 3 rows where there's 3 different colors, because in this row there's a red and a purple and a yellow all in the same row, so it's actually 3 color stranded knitting, and that was just awful. But it's only 3 rounds in the whole mitten that are 3 color stranded knitting. So I managed to do those last night. It took me a freakishly long time to knit just 3 rounds. And then I put it away and worked on other things because I felt like I needed something less stressful after that. So now the rest of the mitten hopefully will fly by and be nice and easy. And of course I'm knitting this out of KnitPicks palette. In the green is grass, the yellow is canary, the red is Serrano, and the purple is majestic. And I just love how they all look together. And again, here is the finished mitten for the other hand. I need to make sure that I make a left-handed mitten, because I am notorious for knitting 2 of 1 hand of mittens. So I need to be very careful when I'm putting the thumb in, the thumb hole, about making sure it's on the right part of the mitten. But yeah, super excited about that, and hoping I can make some more progress on these soon. But these have been really playing second fiddle to the Print of the Wave Stole, because I've been so excited that I actually have enough yarn to complete it now. And also they played second fiddle to this, and I just had so many projects going on this past couple of weeks. So yeah, none of them quite got the attention they deserved. But I had a blast knitting all of them, so that's what matters, right? That's what I tell myself, at least. Next up, I don't think I'd cast this on last week, but if I did, oh well, I will talk about it again because I did make some progress. I started another pair of socks. This will be my third pair of socks now. Well, my fourth pair, but the other one was a lot. It was knit a while ago, and one at a time, and took me forever, and they don't really fit. But now I discovered 2 at a time socks, and so my last 2 pairs, and these are being knit, we're all knit 2 at a time. And I'm happy to be knitting more socks 2 at a time. This time I decided to go for something not quite vanilla. So this is actually the Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern by Erica Luter. And these are just pretty well-known socks for a good reason. Like, that pattern is so simple, but it adds a lovely texture. So I just knit a cuff of 1x1 rib, and now I am working on the leg. The yarn for these is Croy Sock FX. Like, not, yeah, I will put it in the show notes because me trying to explain this yarn just won't make any sense. But yeah, so I'm working on the legs now of the socks. And I obviously didn't try to match them at all because I don't have the patience for that, really. But these socks are living in my shamrock bag that I picked up at Fluff for the Love of Fiber last month. I keep wanting to say last week, but it's been so longer than last week. I have taken a very long time to do things. So I am just loving the chromatic nature of these yarns. I really like looking at the strands close up and seeing all the colors in them, but then when they blend into the knitted fabric, it just looks completely different. So hopefully I can make these socks faster than my previous pairs of socks have taken me to knit. And I'm knitting them on my brand new Chalgu sock needles, which I got to make magic looping easier. And they are so smooth, and the extra length of the cable, I had been knitting 2 at a time socks on like a 32-inch cable. These are 40-inch, and that extra length really makes a difference in making it a lot easier to maneuver 2 socks at a time. So I'm really happy about that. So tune in next week to see if I've made any progress on my socks. These are going to be for me because, yeah, I want them. And also, I already cast them on in my size, so they're not going to be for Paul. I have more socks lined up to knit for him, so he'll get some eventually. Next, I almost totally forgot a work in progress because I just cast it on yesterday. I decided, since I wasn't taking my spinning wheel to the Spinners Guild this week because I didn't feel like carrying it and it was possibly going to rain, I decided I should at least take and knit with some handspun, some of my very own handspun. So I've cast on my first ever like major knitting project with handspun. And I'm just making this pattern up as I go along. It's just a simple triangle shawl, knit out of this beautiful blue and purple wool that a friend of mine gave me while visiting at one point. So I've got a few of the skeins here, so you can see the variation in them. So I'm just knitting the most basic of basic triangle shawls from the bottom tip up to the top, and I'm just going to knit until I run out of this hand spun, and that's how big the shawl will be. So if it's a huge, comfy, oversized shawl, that's fine. If it's just a little neck scarf, that's fine. I don't think it's just going to be a little neck scarf, though. And it's just kind of going to be stripy and random, and purples and blues, and I love it. So the pattern that I'm following for this is not a pattern at all, really. I just cast on 5 stitches, and then I knit 1 row, and then I will knit 2, yarn over, knit to the last 2 stitches, yarn over, knit 2. And those are my increase rows, and then to go back, I just knit all stitches. So I do increases every other row, which will make a nice 45-degree angle shawl. And yeah, it's like the simplest pattern ever. I'm just doing it in garter stitch too. I just wanted to keep it really simple to let my hand spun shine, because I've not knit with my hand spun like ever, except for knitting a little pair out of my very first very awful hand spun. So I want to knit something that I'm going to actually want to wear made out of my hand spun. So I think this is that something. So I'm really excited to be finally knitting with hand spun. And to show how excited I am, I'm obviously keeping it in my Dalek project bag from Rock Solid Designs that I also got at For the Love of Fiber. So super exciting. Next up is my sweater. And I didn't get a whole lot done on this sweater, and I'll show you why. Because I was frustrated with it. I mean, I got some knitting done since the last podcast. I've also got threads on it. This is where I was last podcast. The problem was, as I was knitting recently, I realized that this diamond cable goes in instead of continuing to go out like it should. So I need to rip back this column of stitches and fix that. And I had already done that to fix diamond cables on both sides of the sweater before the last podcast, I think, or after, I can't remember. But anyway, so when I noticed this, I was just not in the mood to do that again. So I just set it aside, let it have some time, and I'm glad I did, because I got work done on my my Shetland shawl, and that made me really happy. But I'm hoping to get back to this soon, because I love this sweater. It's the Honeycomb Aran Pullover by, it's a pattern put out by Paton, and I'm knitting it in Wool of the Andes worsted in the Brass Heather colorway. So once I ladder back and fix that cable, I can keep knitting away at it. I keep thinking that I've got the pattern memorized, and like for these little three-strand braids, I do. And for the middle, I do have the pattern memorized as well, because it's really simple. But I just keep messing up these diamond cables. So I really need to be more careful about them. And I'm going to do that then. Once I get the patience to ladder back again. I feel like this is like Confessions of an Impatient Knitter or something. It's just, that's basically how I knit. Just, if I get tired of something, I get impatient and I move on to something else. But anyway, so one of the things that I had moved on from and now have moved back to is a spinning project. So when I got my very first drop spindle, and like before I even knew how to spin, I also got a bag of raw alpaca fiber. Alpaca? Yes, alpaca. I keep mixing up alpaca and Angora, which I do have some Angora rabbit fiber as well, but it's not the same thing. So this is raw alpaca, and I really like the colors with this. Browns and greens and blues and purples. There's some lighter blues too. And so I didn't know what to do with this though, because it's raw. When I bought it, I just bought it because it was pretty and soft. And I knew nothing about spinning raw alpaca fiber because I knew nothing about spinning fiber. So this has sat in my stash for like 3 or 4 years now. I don't know how long it's been. It's been a long time. And when I took the fiber prep class at For the Love of Fiber, I learned more about how to deal with like raw fibers, and that you don't always need like hand cards to be able to process this into something that you can actually spin. She talked about how you could actually spin this like just as it is, but I was having trouble with that still. It needed to be a little bit combed out for me. So I dug around and I found a dog brush and a cat brush. And I've been using these as little hand cards to just tease apart the wool. Like not even to card it, just to kind of break it apart a little bit so that it all kind of sticks together more. Break apart the more clumpy locks. So I've been doing that and then spinning some singles out of it, and we're talking rough singles here. So that's a little ball of singles that I still have to ply. And then I went ahead and plied a skein of it. So this is how it turned out. And it's really lumpy, bumpy, rough, but I actually really love it. I think it turned out kind of how I envisioned when I started this spinning project. Just like still looks kind of raw, but also holds together nicely in a nice yarn. So this is my raw alpaca yarn. And so I still have that little ball left to ply. And I obviously have actually quite a bit more to process and spin and ply. But I am making progress. It's slow because it's not the easiest thing to spin. I'm having to spin it kind of woolen. I'm practicing a woolen like medium draw. It's not really a long draw yet. I'm kind of too nervous to try a long draw, but yeah, I'm practicing a woolen spin, letting some twist get into the fibers. And it does take a lot of concentration and energy to be able to spin it. So I did this skein and then I took a break and spun all 4 of the Merino Tencel Shirsty Cat skeins. But I'm soon ready to come back to this and try and spin more. And then keeping it in the frustrating spins category, I also worked a little bit on spinning, that's not the right bag, spinning this wool, which is the Blue Mountain Farms 50% Merino, 50% Leicester long wool roving. Lovely seafoam green color with little hints of yellow in it as well. So I do have a skein of this already done that I've shown on a previous podcast several weeks ago. Pretty happy with how it turned out. But then I started having some trouble with it, so I wound off the yarns that I did have on various tries into little balls, and I'm hoping to try and just ply these together in some configuration, and also finish spinning this little bit that's left. And I've kind of also been spinning it woolen, because that really was the only way that I was having any success with it. But hopefully I can turn it around. So those are my main spinning things that have been happening this week. I also spent a considerable amount of time yelling at my sewing machine. By my sewing machine, I mean my mom's that she's letting me borrow. But I spent a good amount of time yelling at it because it was cooperating for me, and then it wasn't. And then it sort of did, but then it was like, nope, not really. And I was frustrated because I was trying to sew one of the projects that I talked about wanting to sew, which was a cloth pad. Now this actually looks decent from there, except for the stringy bits hanging off the end. But it's really pretty terrible, and I'm particularly frustrated because I'm trying to, let's see here, I'm trying to top stitch along the outside edge to just finish it off and close up some holes. And my mom's sewing machine does not want to sew through these 2 layers of fabric. Like, because on the outside edge, there's only 2 layers of fabric. It's just the fleece on the back and the quilter's cotton on the front. It's not any harder than quilting something, but the machine just doesn't want to do it. So I've been getting really frustrated by it. And yeah. But I am happy that this at least looks kind of like I hoped it would. And I'm hoping to figure out how to make the machine work for me. And sew some more of these then. But I guess it is a success in a way because I've never tried to sew anything quite this complicated before, and man, is it complicated. But yeah, I will keep you guys updated on how the sewing of these goes, if I can get the machine to work for me, and if I can make more. We'll see. But I did do something. And then, last but not least, I worked a little bit on some cross-stitching this week. And by a little bit, I mean a little bit. I mostly just did this purple cross-stitching right here. But every little bit is progress, I suppose. So that's good. It's kind of like the jigsaw puzzle that Paul and I have on our kitchen table right now. And every now and then we'll just put a piece in the puzzle. And that's progress. It's one piece that wasn't in it before. But this is really kind of shameful progress, because this has been a project for way too long. But I got enthusiasm for this, and then I revived enthusiasm for my Print of the Wave stole, and yeah, that kind of took over my life. So yeah, but I am happy that I'm making some cross-stitch progress. I believe that is all of my works in progress. Now I have a little bit of stash enhancement to talk about because I was a little bit bad. So I went to my local yarn shop and I got some yarn. I got 2 balls of Dale Falk, and one of them is upside down. 2 balls of Dale Falk. I'm just going to show you the label so that I don't have to talk. And this is just lovely Norwegian pure new wool. It's machine washable. Oh, I didn't know that. But it's just woolly and nice, and I got it to knit a Greenland beaded scarf from the book Knitting Hats and Mittens. No, Knitting Scarves Around the World. It wouldn't be in the Hats and Mittens book because it's a scarf. Knitting Scarves from Around the World. So there's a Greenland beaded scarf in there. It's got a lovely oak leaf on it, and it calls for sport weight yarn. So I got this so I could make that scarf. And now I just need to get beads that match. I'm thinking kind of golden beads to go with the orange, and it'll make it a very lovely, nice autumnal scarf. That's why I went with the orange. So that was fun. And then while I was there, I went for the sport weight yarn, but I also left quite badly with a skein of Juniper Moon Farms yarn. This is their Zoe yarn, which is 60% cotton and 40% linen. And I fell in love with this yarn because it was a nice day at the time, and it just reminded me of spring. I love the color variations. It's kind of getting washed out a little, but there's kind of like little bits of gray in this pink. And it's really hard. I probably won't be able to show it to you at all, but this is actually like a cabled yarn. And I love the extra texture it gives to the yarn itself. Yeah, that's just not showing up, is it? Sorry, but it's this lovely kind of coral pink color, and I don't normally go for stuff in this color, but I thought it looked nice, and so I went for it. And I'm going to make this into some lovely springy, summery knit that I can wear lots and lots, because yes. So that's my yarn damage this week. I also got some fabric to make more scarves if I can ever get the sewing machine to work for me. So I got this lovely just purple lavender colored kind of splotchy fabric, but it reads like a solid, just kind of a tonal solid. And then I got this, which I just love. It's like a sparkly autumnal stripes yarn, not yarn, fabric. And I just love it, and I can't wait to make a scarf out of this. That's what I got both of these for, to make scarves from the book Love It for a Stitch by Tilly Walms. Tilly and the Buttons is who the book is by. And so yeah, if I can get the sewing machine to work, I will hopefully have scarves soon. I already zigzagged around the edges so that I can pre-wash all of this, and then I can get to sewing. I also got in the mail a surprise box, huge box of stuff that my aunt-in-law was giving away because she doesn't really knit anymore, and she knows I do, so she thought I should have it. And it is a huge box, and it's amazing. I opened it up, and there's a ton of stuff in it, and it's pretty cool. But I haven't sorted through it yet, so I don't have it to show you, but it's really exciting. There's mostly some acrylic yarns, but there's also a couple KnitPicks yarns in there, and then the really cool part is there's tons of like knitting needles and crochet hooks and stitch markers and tapestry needles and darning needles and who knows what all's in there. It's pretty cool. So I don't think I'll have to buy many tools anytime soon. But yeah, so hopefully next week I will have sorted through that so I can show you some of the things she sent me, because it was a very generous package. So yeah. And then finally, speaking of generous, the lady who taught the fiber prep class at For the Love of Fiber was given a fleece from one of the vendors to give away as a giveaway for the class, and she just totally forgot. So she brought it in to the Spinners Guild, last night, and she sprawled it out on the floor and let people just kind of pick at it and take bags of wool home. So I did that. And it's going to be a little crinkly because I've got it tied up to keep it kind of away from the cats a bit. Because it's raw fleece. It smells like a barnyard. And yeah, so I will just show you the delightfulness of this. It's a Leicester long wool fleece. I got maybe like 3 or 4 ounces. Enough to probably make a hat out of once it's washed and spun and all that. So yeah, it's a lovely kind of black fleece, long wool, and I'm really excited because I really want to buy a fleece and process a whole fleece, but I don't know how to scour a fleece and stuff like that, so I'm a little wary of investing in a whole fleece and being worried that I'm just going to ruin it. So having this small amount of fleece to practice cleaning and processing it is pretty wonderful. That way I can learn before I invest in a whole fleece. So yeah, got some lovely sheepy wool. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm going to tie it up again because it's a little bit stinky. I understand. I mean, sheep. But, yeah. Lastly, I figured I would talk about my goals for the next few weeks. So I really hope that I can... Sorry. Wow. That yawn hit me out of nowhere. I really hope I can get more sleep than I've been getting. That would be helpful. I hope that I can get some things blocked. Those 2 scarves that I finished. I'm hoping to make more progress on sewing and also finishing my current spins, the alpaca and the long wool. That would be great. That way I can focus on fresh new spinning projects that don't frustrate me so much. I still need to re-dye that chunk of Targhee wool that was supposed to be blue and ended up just kind of mottled, so that I can work on the fractal spin, because I'm really excited about that, but the wool, the blue, does not look like blue. And then of course I want to finish my border on my Print of the Wave stole so that I can be done with it and block it and wear it. So those are my basic goals. That's a lot of goals, actually. But hopefully I can get at least a few of them done this week, even as I'm getting outside more and enjoying the lovely spring weather. We're starting seeds for our garden and yeah, just planting lovely flowers and things to get ready for the warming weather. And my voice is going away, so I think that I probably should too. So thank you for watching this podcast, and if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and go check out our Ravelry group. And until next time, happy knitting!